Welcome to another episode of Crimes Notes. What you guys just learned was about absolute value, inequalities, and the properties of algebra. So now what we're going to do is use those properties of algebra to evaluate expressions and to simplify polynomials, or combine like terms is another way to say that. So the first thing that we want to do is to evaluate an expression. So it says to evaluate an expression, we're going to replace each variable with the given value and simplify. So for instance, if they said x equals 5, then you're going to replace x with 5. Then the other piece of information is what is a variable. So the thing you need to know is that a variable is a symbol, usually a letter, that is used to represent a number. So pi is considered a type of variable, and it represents 3.14 blah 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 blah. But most commonly, if you notice, we have x, y, z. You could have p or g or l or any letter of the alphabet, and that's considered a variable, something that could change, and it's used to represent a number. So let's look at how to evaluate some of these expressions. As usual, I have to fold the paper so that you can see it. So this first question says, evaluate each expression if x is 3, y is -5, and z is -2. Now, I'm going to go ahead and skip number 1 because it's a little bit easier, and I'm going to go ahead and do number 2 for you. So when you're trying to evaluate an expression, what you're going to want to do is rewrite it exactly as you see it, but replace the variables. So I'm going to go ahead and put an absolute value. Then I'm going to bring down the -20. Then next is a plus sign. Then an open parentheses, a minus sign, and then I see the letter y. The letter, yeah. So y is supposed to be -5. Well, there is already a negative there, but we're still going to write it exactly as we see it. So we're going to put -5. Yes, that looks really funny, but we're still going to do that. Then we're going to put a plus. Then we're going to put a parenthesis. Then we're going to put another negative or a minus. And then there's an x. Well, if I look up here, x is supposed to be replaced with 3. So I'm going to put 3, close parentheses, and then put the absolute value. So now I'm ready to go ahead and put this into my calculator. Now, you could do it by hand if you wanted to, but that's not really something that most of you are going to want to do. And of course, now that I've started the video, the calculator decided to restart. So hopefully this won't take too long, so that we can go ahead and bring up a calculate screen. If not, I may do this one by hand, and then we can do the next ones with a calculator. Doot-de-doo, doot-de-doo, doot-de-doo. Let's see. All right, hopefully you don't hear my little one crying in the background. So here's our calculator screen. Remember to put in the absolute value. We go to the crazy button right here next to the 9. Then the absolute value is the second one down. We're going to type exactly what we see. So I'm going to put -20. I do believe you could put -20 and the calculator would fix it. So if you want to put a minus at any time you can, the only time you can't is if it's the very beginning of a problem. Since the absolute value is first, we can put the minus in here. Then I put plus, parenthesis, minus, -5, close parenthesis, plus, parenthesis, -3, close parenthesis, and then I can go ahead and press enter. When I do, it says that the answer is 18. What I want you to notice is that it changed this to a negative. It says plus, and it changed both of these to negatives. So if you put a minus and it doesn't think that it should be a minus, it will change it to a negative for you. So if at all possible, use a minus sign when you're doing the calculator. So now, why don't you go back and try number 1 and see what you get as a solution. Now let's go ahead and look at number 3. Number 3 says evaluate each expression if x is 3, y is negative 5, and z is negative 2. We didn't change the numbers, it's still just like the one above. But now if you notice, we have a number right next to the variable. That means that this is going to represent multiplication. When you have multiplication and division, and it works for addition and subtraction as well, the way that you want to set it up is by putting the number in, and then you can actually leave a set of parentheses for the variable. So 6 parentheses x, so then plus 9, we would leave a parenthesis for the y, and then we could go ahead and put minus 2. So now let's go ahead and fill in for the x and the y. So x is 3, y is negative 5, and now this is calculator ready. So now you could type it in to the calculator exactly like this and get the answer. So I'm going to let you do that. Now let's look at number 4. Number 4 has 3 variables directly in a row. Remember, anything that's right next to each other without any signs in between is multiplication. So I'm going to set this up with 3 parentheses, 1 for x, 1 for y, 1 for z. Then here's my division bar, and then I'm going to have z minus y. And again, you can use parentheses with subtraction, but you don't really have to have it. But this is a really easy way to make sure that you substitute correctly. So x is 3, so I would put a 3 here. Y is negative 5, so I would put a negative 5 in here. Z is negative 2, so I would put a negative 2 in here. Then on the bottom, z, which is negative 2, minus y, which is negative 5. And now this one's calculator ready. I am going to go ahead and help you put this one in because it does require a different button. In order to get this division bar where you can put numbers on the top and the bottom, you're still going to go to that same button. But instead of picking the absolute value, we're going to pick the fraction one that's above it. Now this is not the only way to get a fraction. If you look above your division key, let me scoot this up so you can see, right here above your division key, there's also a fraction bar. So you could hit Control Divide and this same thing would pop up. So now we're going to be in the top and we're going to type exactly what we have. So parentheses 3, close, open, negative 5, close. And again, if you use a minus, the calculator will fix it. Parentheses, so I'll put a minus this time. Okay, and then on the bottom, I'll put parentheses, negative 2, and then close, minus, parentheses, negative 5, close. And now all I have to do is hit enter, and it tells me that the answer to this is 10. Good. So you should, again, be able to have done number 1. You should have put in an answer for number 3. I did this one with you. Okay. All right, so the last thing that we're going to look at on these notes is combining like terms. Well, in order to combine like terms, you need to know what like terms are. So let's define what are like terms. Like terms are terms that contain the same variable. So they have x's or y's or z's, and they also have the same power. So if I had 2x and 3x and 4x squared and 5y, we would be looking for like terms. Well, 2x and 3x and 4x squared all have the same variable. So we would think it would be these. But remember, it also says the same power. Well, that means the exponent. So if you look, this doesn't have an exponent, or it has an exponent of 1. This has an exponent of 2. So this wouldn't be considered a like term. So this 2x and this 3x would be the like terms. 4x squared and 5y would kind of be on their own. So let's look down here at the bottom, and this is where we're going to start to use our properties of algebra. So we're going to use the commutative property to kind of rearrange these things. So first off, let's look, and if you have highlighters, it would probably be best to use those. I didn't bring highlighters home, so I'm going to try to use colors. But let's go ahead and pick out the like terms first. So if I'm looking through problem number 5, my like terms would be 7x minus 10x, and there's not another x. Then I would have negative 3y, because it has a y, and positive 8y. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and box them. That way you guys will notice. Notice that I'm also boxing the sign. That is very important. Every number comes with a sign. It's either positive or negative. So when you're boxing these, make sure that you're including that sign. Okay. And then the last two, notice they don't have a variable. So that means they can still go together. They're just numbers. So this would be the negative 5 and the negative 8. Again, make sure that you're keeping the signs with the numbers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use the commutative property to reorder these so that the like terms are together. So I'm going to move the 7x next to the other blue one, which is minus 10x. And then I'm going to do the pinks. I guess I should have done it in the colors. So let me sort of write this in the other blue. Okay. Then we're going to do the y's. So notice this is a minus 3y, so I'm going to write that next. And then plus 8y. And then I'm going to do the purples, which is minus 5 and minus 8. So what I've done is group them together, or put them side by side. And then I can actually use the associative property to go ahead and say these two go together, these two go together, and these two go together. So to actually combine like terms, I'm going to do whatever it says. So this one says I'm going to take 7x minus 10x. So if I put that in the calculator, don't put the x's, 7 minus 10. And it says negative 3. So that means I have negative 3x. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the y's. So I would again type it into the calculator, again making sure to include the signs. Negative 3 plus 8, enter, and it says 5. Now that's a positive, so I've got to put a plus here. I can't just put a 5. So if it's positive, we would put plus 5y. And then here we have a negative 5 and a negative 8. So again, I would put that in the calculator. Negative 5 minus 8, enter, and that's negative 13. So this would be minus 13. So that's what it looks like when I combine like terms. I put the blues together, then I put the pinks together, then I put the purples together. And this would be my final answer, because this and this are not like terms, like nothing else would go together. All right, so now let's look at number 6. I'm not going to actually do all of it for you, but let's go ahead and look at what our like terms would be. Again, we're going to box the signs, or if you're using highlighters, make sure you highlight the signs. So there's an x. If I go through, here's an x. Again, make sure to include the sign that's in front of the number. Then let's look for y's. So I have this and this. And then notice for my purple, I only have 1. that's fine. That just means I'm not actually going to combine it with anything. So if we were to group, now we're going to do the x's. So minus 2x minus 3x. Then the pinks are plus 9y and minus 9y. And then the last one says minus 6. So now if I were to group them using the associative property, so commutative, rewrite in the order. Associative, I can actually group the colors together. And of course this one just groups by itself. And now we could do what it says. So now I want you to use your calculator to get your final answer. I will tell you 9 minus 9 is going to come out to 0. If you get 0, you do not have to write it, but if you do and you put 0y, it's not incorrect. All right, so let's look at 7, but I'm going to leave this one mainly for you. I am going to box it. So for 7, notice I have xy, xz, xy, and yz. So if we were going to group, I have a 4xy. This is xz, which doesn't match, but this is xy. So these would go together. Then when I would move on to pink, I have minus 4xz. Well, when I look, this has a yz. Therefore, it stays by itself and would be our only purple. So if you notice, pink and purple really don't have anything to go with them. So when I go to write it down, I would just put whatever I get here, minus 4xz, minus 11yz. And that's it. So hopefully you guys can write me some correct answers over here. If you're having trouble, remember I'm in the room. Just ask for help.